Hey everyone, Jack here trying to make an attempt to bring back my side channel, the old Flat Cap Euro Talk. Now I'm going to rebrand it just under my name. I think that'd make things easier actually for myself to remember to try to upload and do a better job for you guys, but also maybe just for some own kind of recognition so that people can, when they're maybe thinking of my channel, they can just look up the name and then it will show up there. But apologies everybody, channel did die. Channel ended up going really dormant, really inactive for a long time. Apologies. I can try to explain in a much longer way that you probably deserve, all of you, in a different video. If I were to explain quickly, things went really well at the Irish Hotspur, Dave and I needed to focus a lot of my attention there. Dave needed me to focus a lot of my attention there. And sadly, I maybe lost that motivation and that drive to keep doing things here because I really do enjoy talking about things outside of Spurs and just enjoy talking about the game in general. And that's what this channel provided me. It provided me a lot of therapy. It provided hopefully you guys some therapy and thinking about things outside of Spurs if you guys have interest outside of it. And I really loved this channel and I lost track of it and I apologize and I want to get back to it. So this is my attempt of it. First video is going to be a Euros group preview. I'm going to go through a document. It's not going to be too fancy. That's going to kind of be the trend here is back in the day I was doing tons of scout reports and it's going to bring those back here, don't get me wrong, but I think what I need to focus on is just trying to be able to upload because when I had so much going on with the Irish Hotspur, I felt like I still had a lot of things that I wanted to try to complete here and do over here, and it just made life difficult because images, thumbnails, all that stuff can be kind of hard. Also, moving to this new apartment was actually a little bit difficult. You can even hear by the sirens and stuff always that's happened to me around me. It's not always very easy to record here, and sadly, I think my kind of YouTuber life has been made a lot harder since moving to this new apartment. But I've decided to buckle down, not complaining, enough doom and gloom. Going to try to bring this channel back, and hopefully you guys can forgive me, and hopefully you guys can join along with the ride. And really appreciate any of you guys that's even tuned in so far. Ribsy85, as well as Eden Ferguson, you absolute legends. And I can really tell that you guys are very kind to me by even bothering to tune over here. So really do appreciate you both. But like I said, everybody, this is going to be a Euros preview. I'm going to really just go through the groups. That's the best that I could do ahead of this. I wanted this to be more of a complete all-around preview plus predictions. I think I'm going to break it down into two. I think I'm going to do a preview where I'm going through all the squad lists, all the names and all the players in each and every squad. Going to get my assessment, give my judgment of each team and their chances and what I just think of them in general. And I think I'm going to use everything that I said from this video and make another live stream or another video where I'm going to talk about what my actual predictions are based off maybe what I've said today. So I tried to do my best to cram in as much research and time into this ahead of it. I wish I could have made this a much more pleasing, aesthetically, better looking video, especially with the way I'm going to go about it. Hopefully you guys can tolerate it. Good to see John from Spurs fan John in here as well. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, let's get through it here, everybody. We're starting off with Group A. We're starting off with Group A, and we're starting off with Hungary for some reason. Not even Germany, not even Scotland. I decided to start off with Hungary. And some of the names that I've highlighted here are for various reasons, and I'll get through them. But the ones that I do highlight are either players that I know personally that I actually recognize or ones that I've highlighted for a reason that I'll get into. But let's get into it. Not blabbering. Let's talk about Hungary. Let's talk about some European football. Let's talk about the Euros. Peter Gulacsi, still surprised that he actually is playing for this Hungary team. He must be absolutely ancient. And I would reckon that he was born before even the wall went down. I'd love to check that up right now. This is also maybe going to be a new thing with the channel. It's just me letting my brain sort of, just run riot at this point. Was he born before the wall? Before the wall? No, it says he was born in 1990. So Peter Gulacsi, Hungarian international. He might have been born and from Germany. That's the reason I think I'm saying that. I'm not even sure if he's actually from Hungary. He might be from Germany, Peter Gulacsi, but he is getting very old. He's not very good with his feet or very good at rushing out. He used to be a brilliant keeper, but he was more for the shot stopping than he really was for anything else. And when you're defending deep, when you're going for that David Moyes, Sean Dyche, defending at all costs, every man behind the ball, Diego Simeone, that sort of style, I think he can be a very good keeper. He's tall, athletic, makes crack saves, good at claiming crosses. It's just that how are Hungary going to play? Are they going to be playing with a high press? I don't think so. Last time in the Euros tournament, they didn't. They played with a very effective counterattack that I thought really caught out teams like Germany and plenty of other sides out. Will they go with that tactic again? I'd reckon so. But if they don't, then I think Pudugalachi could be exposed. The rest of those four names there after that, I couldn't really tell you much about them. Always good to see someone, see Ferencvaros, though, being represented. I love saying that name, Ferencvaros, and I hope we one day we're able to get a player from them so I can nerd out over some highlight reels of the Hungarian league. Martin Darda, or Martin Dardai, former or is a Hertha Berlin player. I know Ian would know about him a little bit. And his family, Paul Dardai, the whole Dardai family, are very popular around the Hertha Berlin club. But I think he has some Hungarian some Hungarian heritage, German international originally, but looks like he has declared for Hungary. You have Milos Kerkes, of course, at Bournemouth, very good fullback and knows how to get up and down the pitch. Willie Orban over at RB Leipzig, long-time defender for them. Solid, nothing too special, no nonsense defender, can be quite good. Again, when you are trying to defend deep, when you are trying to defend to the hilt. You have Zoltz Nagy, who I had heard of before. And when I then looked him up and looked up his face, this guy, I remember being a nasty, nasty player, a dark arts specialist, if I may add. So someone who also I just think could help them in their defending when they are looking to either defend a lead or just keep the game at 0-0. This seems like a team that's really going to be going for lots of 0-0s, 1-0s type of games. And so I wouldn't be that surprised if this guy Zoltz Nagy is once again used in it. He's been very effective for them. Attila Shalai, he's a good defender. I think he came from Fenerbahce originally, then moved to Hoffenheim. Talented defender, young, should be good for them. You have then Luis Nego, who I think has been an effective player for them on the counterattack, like I wrote there. And if everybody can see that, okay, hopefully it's not too small for them. This is the best that I can do. I can actually make it a tad bigger if you guys like. I just didn't want my camera to be too small. With Loic, though, this guy, I remember being effective for them either on the right or on the left in their counterattacks, used as like a left mid or a right mid. And lots of times, this Hungary team, I remember them deploying something similar to like a 4-4-2. So a player that if you end up watching them, I think you should take a look out for. Then you have apparently a guy named Kristofer Horvats for a club that I forgot when doing my research for. I can't even tell you what club this is. I imagine it's in the Hungarian league. I'm guessing that it is. He got 11 goals and 5 assists, so it just showed that he had a decent last season. Cool to see that they have a guy from the Philadelphia Union. Laszlo Kleinheisler is a good player, actually. I think on loan from a Greek club, might be Panathinaikos. And he's actually a good leader for them, veteran player, just solid midfielder in that team. And then, of course, the guy highlighted in orange, Dominic Szoboszlai, is the star man, is the star playmaker in this team. And then Roland Shalai, he plays for Freiburg. I actually like Roland Shalai. I think he's a good runner, knows how to get into channels, can stretch defenses. He's probably their best striker, in my opinion. Works very hard. I like him a lot, Roland Shalai. So that's another player to look out for. Andres Schaefer, maybe too, but he's not really had necessarily a great season. Neither has Adam Nagy. And then you look at this guy who I'd never really heard of until I did some of the research. Barnabas Varga for Ferencvaros, 20 goals and 3 assists in the league, and then 2 goals and 1 assist in the Conference League. I thought that was pretty interesting. So while I always expected their team to be pretty light up front, I think this Hungarian side, they're going to be much more a hardworking team than they are going to be a free scoring team. This guy Varga is a new name, a new face that I hadn't heard of before, and looks to be a goal scoring threat. So I wonder if Callum Styles, I think, played for like Sunderland originally, now at Barnsley. That's funny that he's playing for them now. I remember him from the last tournament, but I'd look at Roland Shalai and Varga as their goal scorers if they are to ever score enough goals to get through this group. But Szoboszlai, obviously the best player in the team, the main go-to. Where I would lastly add on this team, I think where their strength is actually in defense. Peter Galacci is still an okay goalkeeper. I did criticize him, but he's still a fine goalkeeper. You do have Martin Darty, who's a good defender, Milos Kerkes, who's a good fullback, Willie Orban, who's another good defender, Zoltz Nagy, who I said might not even play in this team, but is also not a bad defender, at least has been good for them in these tournaments. Then you have Attila Shalai, who's a very talented young defender. So I think they have a good mix here of talented and young, but also experienced players in that back line. And I actually expect this team to be really hard to score past, really hard to score against. So that's the last thing that I'll leave really on Hungary here. So many beautiful faces, so many good people in the house here. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Ian Ferguson. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ribsy85. Ribsy saying lots of people saying Hungary are a dark horse. Seems a long shot to me. Good recent form, though. I don't think they're a dark horse, Ribsy. They're good, and they surprised a lot of people the last tournament. And they were able to get out of, or they didn't get out of, but they were so close to getting out of that group of death. And who was in it? Wasn't it France, Portugal, Germany, and Hungary, right? Or France might have been in a different group. It was such a tough group. And they were giving everybody a good game, Hungary. They gave everybody a shout and everybody a scare. I'm not sure if that's going to be happening this time around. I can't tell. One thing I would add, and I probably would include this more in my video for tomorrow, but a thing I would add is they have a very powerful and a very influential fan base when it comes to the in-house atmospheres. They travel well, the Hungarian fans. They're very controversial. They cause scenes. They cause, bad incidences and whatnot, but they carry themselves far. They just know how to get around Europe. They show up in a real ultra mentality. They're very scary fan base. And I think they actually add to atmospheres that make it very difficult to play against. And they can feel like probably in Germany then, where it's quite close to Hungary, Germany. And if any of the games that are going to be played in Eastern Germany too, you'd expect that the Hungarian team will have a pretty good representation from their fan base. And that could play a big factor, I think, because they probably have, I'd probably say they have the loudest or maybe the most toxic. I don't know what the right word is, but they definitely have a controversial and a very loud and very powerful fan base, that Hungarian team. So that's another thing to think about. I'm not sure if they're dark horses, though. I don't think they're that good. They could cause some upsets. I'll talk about tomorrow if whether they even get out of the group, though. Ian Ferguson saying, yeah, Darda just started playing for Hungary this year. No way he's breaking into Germany at this point. I agree. THFC till I die. Good to see you, Dermatron. Appreciate you, sir. Good evening, Jack. I have quite thought about it. I haven't quite thought about it. France and Italy final, and Germany will surprise a few people. You never rule out the Germans, but I seen too many Euros. Thing is with me, Dermatron, we're going to get to Germany in a second. They've let me down on so many occasions, man, because I have a soft spot for Germany. I always have. Studied abroad in Berlin. I like Berlin. It's probably my favorite city in the world. I'm not sure if I totally have that much of an affinity or that much of a likeness for Germany, but I do like German beer, like to, study German language. So I just have a soft spot for them. Also kind of players like Thomas Muller, plenty of German players I've always had a soft spot for. So I just don't know if they're going to do very well in this tournament. I think they might let us down once again, but we'll get to their team in just a second. Mimidi, appreciate you. Love the Hajduk split badge as well, saying, I feel like Hungary would beat Switzerland 2-1. I'm going for Hungary when it comes to the predictions as well. I'm planning on doing day by day predictions for each game, Mimidi, and I'm actually going for Hungary to beat or draw with Switzerland. I guess people in the betting circles would call it a double chance. I'd be going for Hungary to either draw or win in that game. Paul Connor saying, look at you, Jack, banging out 2 live streams in a day. Yeah, Paul, that was part of the reason why I went earlier, man, was so that I could try to bring back this channel and try to put out something later today before I go out on a run and before I go out for a workout. Big up to you, Paul. Also, it's been a very weird week for me where it's been anniversary, 2 birthdays, my girlfriend's birthday, another birthday, and then another birthday, I think in the next week around the corner. And people coming in and about the apartment. It's been a very hectic week, so it's not been easy for me. And also on top of Dave being out, hasn't necessarily made things easy. But appreciate you, Paul. And then Ian Ferguson saying, yeah, if it's in Eastern Germany, look out. Police will definitely be earning their pay that day. If they ever wanted to earn their pay, I guess that would be the time. Ian, well, let's keep things moving. We go into Scotland. I have problems with the goalkeepers here straight away. Angus Gunn, Xander Clark, Liam Kelly. Angus Gunn, I don't know too much about, and I'm going to look him up. And is he pretty old? I'm trying to remember if he's quite old, because I think we've heard his name for a long time now, unless I'm mistaken. 28 years? No, he's not old by any means, but it's just not really, I guess, a super high quality, top rated keeper. No offense to anybody that might be, cheering for the Scotland national team, but I'm not too confident in any of their keeper options. I think that is a big worry there. That could be Happy birthday to the missus tomorrow, Paul. It seems like so many people I know born in this period of June. You look at Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney. How will they find a way to fit them both in? You wonder who's going to play left back, who's going to play that left wing role. I haven't even taken a look at the formations that they've been rocking with some of these sides, but I imagine that they'll try to find a way to get Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney into the same team. Jack Hendry, very talented defender who was originally at Club Brugge, but then he went to Al Ettifaq, and you'd think that he'd be one of their better defenders, but now that he's been playing in the Saudi league and is a young talent, he's really hurt his growth and really hurt his potential. So I wonder if their defense is made even worse by um, someone like Jack Hendry actually not being just not playing at a super high level. I wonder if that might hurt them. Liam Cooper, of course, we know from Leeds United. I mean, he's sort of standard, right? Scott McKenna, I have heard of him before. Grant Hanley as well. Just a lot of old defenders in this team, with Jack Hendry being the youngest of them. I just feel disappointed that he didn't end up taking a move to a club where he really would have challenged himself. Greg Taylor, I think I had heard of him too. Greg Taylor. Let me look up his name and remind myself of why I looked him up in the first place. Maybe he had an exceptional season recently. Greg Taylor. He might have had a decent season recently for Celtic. That might have been the reason why that I highlighted his name. You have Callum McGregor, of course, too. Ryan Christie, who had a brilliant season at Bournemouth, and I think could really be a decent impact sub for this Scotland team. Billy Gilmore, of course, John McGinn. It's a solid midfield that they will have of Callum McGregor, Billy Gilmore, and John McGinn. And then Scott McTominay, for me, I actually think is their best player and is their best chance of getting through these groups, because he's been their goal scorer. He's one of their hardest workers. Sad to say this, when you talk about actual overall quality on the ball, off the ball, Scott McTominay might be one of their best. Not saying much, but might be one of their best. I think he'll be the key to them trying to get out of this group. Stuart Armstrong, I must add, I actually been not necessarily a fan of his. I think that'd be a stretch, but I have noticed that Stuart Armstrong for Southampton is a very good shot on him. He can hit them from distance, this guy. So it's something to look out for. If you ever watch this Scotland team and you end up seeing a banger, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Stuart Armstrong who ends up hitting it. Ryan Jack, veteran of the team. Che Adams, veteran of the team. Good for hold-up play. I wouldn't say, though, is their best chance of goal scoring. I might give that more to Scott McTominay. Lawrence Shankland, apparently in the Scottish Pro League, he had for Hearts 24 goals and 4 assists, not too shabby. Tommy Conway for Bristol City, I think he's a young forward, had 10 goals and 1 assist, so he seems to be an up and coming player. And then Lewis Morgan for New York Red Bulls, 9 goals and 2 assists thus far in the MLS season recently. So Lewis Morgan, Tommy Conway, they could help out. Lawrence Shanklin there. So I wonder who will really be the goal scorer for the Scotland team. I'd imagine it's going to be Scott McTominay. But I wonder if any of these other guys are going to step up. I worry for the Scotland team. The midfield is strong. I think their attack has better options than it did the last time that they were here. I could be wrong about that, but at least by the numbers, it looks like they have better options than they did before. Where I'm very worried about them is the defense here. I just feel like they have good fullbacks, but where are the center backs? No center backs that I can name that are of any real quality, and a lot of them are quite old as well. And apologies for the siren that's probably about to pass me at one stage here, everybody. But this Scotland team, yeah, I think I give them somewhat of a chance, but I'm not too sure how much of a chance I really give them. I don't think they're good enough to get past. I actually would say Hungary might be a better team than the Scotland side. I think Scotland have better players, but I wonder with Hungary having a better defense, if that's what you would rather have. Let me know if that's what I'd rather have a better defense in a Euros tournament than a better attack, personally. I think it's usually more about defending. It's more about having a balanced team than it really is about having a gun-ho attacking side. But that's just me personally. Let's go to the chat, though. Ribsy85, Angus Gunn sounds like a fake name. I gave a Cups kid. Che Adams is solid in my opinion. Tartan Army travels very well too. Also true. They do have a good traveling fan base. That is a very good point. But let's go on into Switzerland, der Schweiz. Gregor Kobel or Jan Sommer. That's what I have labeled straight away. I wonder who's going to be their keeper. Both are very good. Both are different from each other. Kobel is more of a modern keeper, good with his feet, very athletic, is probably becoming one of the best young keepers in the world, in my opinion. Jan Sommer is a veteran of this team and has always been a good keeper. What's funny about Jan Sommer is he's not very tall, but he's always done very well for himself, despite not being one of the taller goalkeepers, probably one of the shorter goalkeepers, if I may add out there. So yeah, Jan Sommer or Gregor Kobel, which one will they go for? I think that's a big risk and decision. Manuel Kanji, Nico Elvedi, Ricardo Rodriguez now must be very old, but he's a veteran of the team. Fabian Scher. I'd like that defense. What I like about that defense is that they have guys that are very good on the ball for the most part. And then you have Remo Freuler in midfield. He's a solid veteran of this team. Serdan Shaqiri, I mean, how good is he anymore? I wonder. That will be interesting. Can he even offer anything to the Switzerland team? He's really fallen off. Then you have Granit Xhaka, who's just become a different player in the last year or two. He's had two excellent seasons in a row, one for Arsenal and then one for Bayer Leverkusen. I think he's matured a lot as a player from what I can tell. It's not saying much because he was at pretty much a bare zero or, bottom level basement of maturity, but he really has in the last few years or so. And he carried them past France. It was an upset that I completely forgot about when hearing other previews, when listening to some other much better previews than you're probably hearing than this one. I heard that Granit Xhaka, or was reminded that Granit Xhaka was a part of that Switzerland team that knocked out France in the World Cup or the Euros in the last tournament, which was it wasn't the World Cup, it must have been the Euros. It was a huge upset. I remember that game, and Granit Xhaka is a huge player for them, and he's the key. I think, like any of the players that I label in orange here, I think are the key players for them if they were to get out of their groups and if they are to have a good tournament. So Granit Xhaka for me, I don't think as much a surprise to you guys, but is definitely their key player. And then you have Dennis Zakaria, who was at Chelsea at one point, now at Monaco. He had a pretty decent season at Monaco. Zeki Mdouni, I've actually been a fan of at Burnley. I think he's a good player. I think he's solid. He disappeared for a bit at Burnley when they weren't playing very well, but he's good on the ball, technically very solid. Just an elegant player really to watch, and I think could end up being probably their second best goal scorer in this team. I don't really rate Breel Mbolo. I think he's good, hard-working player, but I don't really rate his goal scoring ability very much. If they were to score goals, I think it's going to come from either Mdouni or it's going to come from Okafor personally. And then you have some other veterans of the team, and Renato Steffen, who I feel like has been there for a long, long time, and Ruben Vargas, who's been there for a long, long time, and Steven Zuber, who's been there for a long, long time. This Switzerland team is quite funny. I don't think they're very good. They have some good players of very high quality in Gregor Kobel, Manuel Kanji, Fabian Scher, maybe less so, but he is a solid player, Fabian Scher. Granit Xhaka is probably their best player. It's hard. I don't think they're that great of a side, actually, the Switzerland team. I'm more worried about their attack. I don't think they have much firing power. The fact I rate Zeki Mdouni somewhat, but the fact that I look at it and probably is their second best striker next to Noah Okafor. And Noah Okafor is talented, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he was the main man for Milan this last season or anything. And he still has plenty of potential to live up to. I'm a little worried about the Switzerland team personally. I'm a little worried about them. And now we move on to Germany. Last but certainly not least, Manuel Neuer. I still think he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And then you go to Antonio Rudiger, probably the best nuisance defender in the world, the best at giving someone a hard time. He can handle Haaland. He can handle the best, really. He can give Harry Kane a rough time. The guy's just so good at when you need someone to basically just focus all their attention on one guy. He's so brilliant at that. Antonio Rudiger, also one of the masters of the dark arts, you could say, in world football right now. Jonathan Tah, who I never really rated too much up until Xabi Alonso came in, has had a renaissance, I think, since Xabi Alonso has come back, and he is a good defender. Robin Koch is okay, in my opinion. Maximilian Mittelstadt, former Hertha Berlin player, one of the best attacking left wing backs this last season, was unbelievable going forward. Nico Schlotterbeck, we know, is a very good up-and-coming German defender on that left side. Valdemar Anton had a good season for Stuttgart. I think actually he's Hungarian international, or could have been Hungarian international. But he's had a good last season for Stuttgart. Benjamin Henrichs, I don't really rate too highly. And then you have a tough choice, actually, at left wing back, I think, between David Raum and Maximilian Mittelstadt. I wonder what they'll go there, because David Raum is a solid player, a very good player down the left back side. And knows how to get up and down, can whip in a dangerous cross. David Raum, but Maximilian Mittelstadt had easily one of the best left wing back seasons out there in European football. Wonder who they'll go for. The big thing with this Germany team before I move further is that they don't have much experience. This isn't a team that you could say really has any experience in this German side. Mittelstadt, not much at all. Robin Koch, not much at all. Jonathan Tah, really not even much at all, despite being more of a veteran defender in that team. Nico Schlotterbeck, Anton, Henriks, Raum has more experience than a lot of the rest of these guys. I couldn't even say he's that much of an experienced German international. Joshua Kimmich, of course, is easily the most experienced player, maybe next to Ilkay Gundogan and Toni Kroos, but it's hard. It's hard. This German team. I'm not filled with very much confidence when I look at their defense. They have good defenders in Nico Schlotterbeck. They have good defenders in Antonio Rudiger. It's just not a lot of experience there, and that's been their downfall. I think in recent seasons has been both their attack but also their defense. The defense has not really been filled with very much quality. Their midfield is always stacked with quality. Germany, but the attack as well as the defense in recent years it's not really had that much quality to get them through tournaments. And so I'm still worried about that defense. Ilkay Gundogan and Joshua Kimmich is a wonderful pairing. I wonder if Joshua Kimmich will play as a right back though instead of playing in midfield. Then you have Pascal Gross, who I think has the best furrowed eyebrows in all of world football. Robert Andrich had a great last season at Bayer Leverkusen, much more of a destroyer type midfielder for me. I'm pretty sure Alexander Pavlovich is not even in the team, and it's been replaced by Emre Can, which I think is a huge downgrade. I like Emre Can at one point I liked, but I think he's long past it. Very old, clunky. Yeah, just not the mobile midfielder that I think you need to be in a top tournament like this. Chris Führich, of course, we just saw recently being linked with Spurs. Good attacking winger, had one of the better seasons of any of the German wingers, you would say. Leroy Sané, it's just a frustrating player. He's so quality, but his attitude, I think, is a big issue, and his motivation even to work in games is always a big issue. Just as a confusing player, I think Leroy Sané, and then Toni Kroos. I wonder how much of an impact he will have in this tournament, knowing that this is his kind of swan song. This is his final time in the team, and you'd like to think that he will end with a bang, but yeah, it's a lot of pressure or no pressure. I wonder what it's like for Toni Kroos being in a tournament like this, but that's someone who you always have to take into consideration. But if they were to go far, if they were to go deep in this tournament, I expect Jamal Musiala to be the man to be that guy for them. I do expect Jamal Musiala, if they were to go far into a tournament, I think he has to carry them personally. He's so good in this German team. He's so good at taking it past players, so good at creating chances. My big issue with Jamal Musiala, though, is that his finishing. I think he has enough. I think he does waste a lot of chances, one in front of goal. Just always seems to find a way to either miss it wide, hit the post. Just yeah, he can miss big chances, but he's going to be there. He's going to be there. I think their big game changer. He's going to be there if they were to go deep into a tournament. I think it would require Jamal Musiala in order to play well. Florian Wirtz, just two players in a row. That's amazing to even say to have in the same team. The fact that they do have Musiala, Wirtz, and Zane all in the same team, you should be doing so well with that. But weirdly, they haven't been in recent years. Niklas Füllkrug, good target man. I'm not sure how much he'll even play though, because they have Kai Havertz, who they probably prefer to play down the middle, and Thomas Muller, my favorite player probably of all time in the German team there. Dennis Undav, who had a very good season at Stuttgart with 18 goals and 10 assists, and Maximilian Bayer was a guy that I liked from this last season at Hoffenheim. I think he'd be an interesting X factor for this team because Bayer had a very good season for Hoffenheim. That Hoffenheim team kind of stunk too. Like I didn't think they were very good. Yet Bayer for me was probably the highlight. Was one of the silver linings of that team. So he's someone you could expect actually to show up maybe unsurprised or surprisingly, and he's not really a big name in the German team. But that is Group A. If I were to say which team I'm most confident about, I mean, Germany should get through the groups, but I'm going to just say this here quickly. I don't really have much confidence in Germany making this a very easy tournament for themselves. I worry about that defense and still with the attack. Just not a lot of big names there. I think the guy that I'd expect to score for them up top would be Havertz, but he can go missing a lot of times, Kai Havertz. So I wonder what this team will be like. I wonder what it will look like. Yeah, Germany, I'm a little worried by. I think they will get through the group. I'll give my other predictions for other teams in a separate video, but I do think they'll get through the group, Germany. But I'm not filled with confidence. They just should get through the group. I think that's what I'm probably trying to say. Let me get to the chat though, see if there's some other people that came in here. Philly, big up Philly. Good to see you out here, sir. Good to see you on the show. Saying Switzerland are a team that know how to grind out a result. They did, and they certainly did against France. They played exceptional against France. I'm just not very confident in that forward line, not very confident in certain players in the midfield or the defense. It's just they don't. Yeah, just I'm not really in love with that squad, to be honest, Philly. Yeah, a lot of talent in that German team, that's for sure, Ian. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I guess they can't perform any worse than they did in the last few tournaments. Just that's where I lie with Germany. Ribsy is in past few tournaments I tipped them to go further than maybe others would have, and I got embarrassed. They did not go far at all. They embarrassed themselves, and I'm going to take a step back when predicting Germany to go far. I just think recently they've just been big choke artists, really big choke artists, and it's been hard to watch for me. And I'm not sure how much confidence I can give them this season. Yeah, Tyler, I think Switzerland will be much worse this time around. Thanks for tuning in, Big T. Really do appreciate you, sir. Let's move on into Spain. Another goalkeeping problem. I'm not sure who they go for. Are they going to go for Unai Simon, who had a good season with Bilbao? Romero, I've heard of. I haven't seen much of him, but I have heard of. He looked like an all right keeper for Sociedad. And then you have David Raya. I wonder who they'll go for because none of them are really that experienced or have that many caps, I believe, for the Spanish national team. So I wonder who it will be. Alex Grimaldo, of course, great player, can be very creative on that left side. You have Aymeric Laporte, who was just playing in Saudi Arabia. So I wonder how much of a factor that will play in him starting because he's expected to start for this Spain team. But the fact that he's playing a year in Saudi Arabia, I personally would predict that that's going to be a big factor in a player adjusting to this level because let's be honest, the Saudi Pro League did not, I think, hit the heights or reach the attention or even reach the quality levels that they would have wanted or expected. And I just don't know how much Aymeric Laporte has sustained that level of play. Coming up against really good players, coming up against really high level competition. I wonder if he'll get caught out. I wonder if he'll struggle in the first few games. It's the same with other guys that I think who would be playing in the Saudi league. It's just is this level of competition just so dramatically different that they might struggle. Danny Carvajal, love the guy, love the guy, love the guy, but is he getting too old? Because I don't see too many right backs in this team. Daniel Vivian, I haven't even heard too much about him. Jesus Navas, he's exceptionally old. Then you have Nacho from Real Madrid, Marc Cucurella. I wonder who's the right back in this team. Is it going to be Navas? Is it Vivian? Is it Carvajal? I'm not too sure. So let me know, everybody. I'm very confused as to who their right back is going to be. And any of the options, they look very old for the Spanish right backs. Alex Baena looked to be a good player for Villarreal. Just I looked at his numbers, seemed to have a very good season. Lenormand is a very highly rated center back for Sociedad. Then you also have Zubamendi from Sociedad, who's pretty much rated by some of the football hipsters as one of the best number sixes, I think, in European football, if I'm not mistaken. Then Mikel Merino, another great Sociedad player. Lots of Sociedad representation in this team. Fabian Ruiz had an okay season at PSG. Rodri, probably the best center defensive midfielder in world football. Alvaro Morata, this is a tough one because he's been playing really well this last season. Then he had his kind of fall off like he usually does, but he has been a different player in the past couple of years, Alvaro Morata, and he's been okay for the Spanish national team too. It's a tough one. You wonder if he'll show up in this tournament. Usually he wouldn't. It's just he's been a different player. Danny Olmo, always good. Ferran Torres, never really liked him too much, but can be a good player. Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, for me, are actually the two players that if Spain were to go deep into this tournament, I think it's going to depend on them. Lamine Yamal is just ridiculous. I think all of us have probably seen him at this point, but the kid really is just something special. And Nico Williams is not far behind and a very talented and very special player for the Spanish national team. I could see them both playing on the left as well as the right, and that's what I think they should do personally. I think they should pass on the future to guys like Nico Williams, guys like Lamine Yamal. I even see Fermin is in the team, very talented player for Barcelona. You have Pedri as well. I think they should they should pass on the torch over to these guys. And I'd start Nico Williams as well as Lamine Yamal in their upcoming games. I'm not sure who they'll go for down the middle. Probably Alvaro Morata. I'm not against that. It's pretty much their only striker other than Joselu. So I think they should go with that personally, Spain. If they were to give these guys the opportunity, give them that chance, I think that's their best chance of going deep into this tournament. And maybe that is their game plan by the looks of things. You have Mikel Oyarzabal, who's a very good player as well. He might start ahead of someone like a Nico Williams, but I think you got to give a lot of minutes to guys like Lamine Yamal if they're to go deep into this tournament. You have Croatia, the Itches, love the Itches, always will stand by them and always will be cheering for them. Have them on right now in terms of my kit that I'm wearing at this moment. Dominik Livakovic, probably one of the players of the World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or the Euros. I'm forgetting which tournament, but he was one of the players of the tournament. You have Josip Stanisic, Josip Sutalo, Josko Gvardiol, all good defenders, and Marin Pongracic, Erlich, Lavra Meyer in midfield. I'm worried about this Croatian defense because I think you have guys like Gvardiol who are some of the best in the world. Stanisic had a brilliant last season. You have Juranovic, who's an okay right back too, but I am a little worried about this defense. I wonder how it will cope because it doesn't have that experience that it once did with, the Domago Vidas. He is there, but I doubt he's going to play. And some of the other guys that they used to have in defense. I just wonder what it will be like this time for them. But Gvardiol, and as well as Sutalo and Stanisic, I'd probably say are their best defenders and should be able to hold out for them. And they always have had a brilliant midfield, the Croatians. Lavra Meyer probably isn't even playing. Ivan Jusek probably won't even play, but Ivan Jusek had a pretty decent season, I believe, with Feyenoord. Luka Modric, Marcelo Brozovic, Mateo Kovacic are going to be the three and always have been the three in this midfield. For me, though, I think they have to pass on more of the torch over to someone like Mateo Kovacic if they are to go deep, if they were to go far into this tournament. I just think that Luka Modric and Brozovic have carried them far too long, and they're such good players. They're such brilliant midfielders. Luka Modric, one of my favorite players of all time. I just wonder though if Kovacic needs to step up a bit more in this tournament if they are to go deep into it. I don't expect the Croatians to go very far. I think they're in this transitional period, but if they are to go deep into a tournament, for me, it's going to probably have to be Kovacic to carry them. I just think Brozovic, now that he's been playing in Saudi, not going to be at the same level he once was. Luka Modric is so old. Like he's unbelievable, but he is getting old. Kovacic, I think, is going to have to take on a lot of responsibility in this Croatian side. Ante Budimir at Osasuna, don't know much about him. I remember him, though, because he's always brought up or always included in this Croatian squad whenever they go to a tournament. But he looked like he had an okay season at Osasuna with 17 goals and 2 assists in the league. Bruno Petkovic is one of the most frustrating players to watch, really, and especially for the national team, he really can be. He can have flashes of brilliance, and then he can also just be a complete donkey. And then Ivan Perisic, the absolute GOAT up top too. I wonder how much of an impact he'll have in this tournament, and because it should be along with, you think, Modric, one of their last ones. Him and Perisic, or him and Modric. Kramaric has always been a good player. He just never shows up for Croatia in the tournaments, at least in my memory. He never seems to. And then Nikola Vlasic, a name that we knew was very talented at one point, came to West Ham, didn't work out, went to Torino, had a pretty good season at Torino, and could also be an impact sub for them. But with the Croatians, it's just not much has changed, really. And up top, I'm worried about them because Perisic has gotten older. Petkovic, I just don't rate. Kramaric is getting older, too. Never showed up for the Croatian national team. Budimir is maybe one of their hopes, but just never really been that quality of a player. I worry about them up top. Where are the goals coming from in this team? They have great midfielders. They have good players throughout that midfield. Just where are the goals coming from? I do wonder. Baturina, very talented player, by the way, out of Dinamo Zagreb. Someone to think of and be taking a look at. Moving on to Italy, though. Good to see you, Tato. Really appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see good to see Vicario in the team, right? Vicario in the Italian national team. Doji sadly cannot be brought with. I wonder, though, if they're going to go with Donnarumma. If they go with Donnarumma, I think they have less of a chance of winning this tournament, Italy. I just think Vicario is the future of this Italian national team for me. Lorenzo, always been a good fullback. DeMarco, always been a good fullback. Mancini, I like him. He's a bit like Rudiger, not as good as Rudiger, but has that shithousery, has that wonderful dark arts to his game. And Bellanova looked to have a good season at Torino, seems to be a fullback with 1 goal and 7 assists. Bastoni, one of the better defenders in the world. Very happy with that defense, I think, at Italy. I think that's where their strength is going to be, is in the defense. Nicola Barella, for me, has always been, might be a hot take, but for me, Nicola Barella has always been one of the best midfielders in the world. And I'm not sure if he ever would leave Inter Milan, but if he ever did, I think all the top clubs should be after him. He's just one of the best hardworking midfielders in the world. Such a great box to box presence. And then Frattesi, and both of them together are brilliant. But Frattesi has scored a lot of goals for this Italian national team recently, if I'm not mistaken. Jorginho, Pellegrini, Cristante, a guy I'm a huge fan of. Cristante, I think he's a wonderful deep lying number 6, and would be someone I'd actually recommend, if not haven't recommended before, for Spurs to take a look at as a number 6 option for us. I just think he's brilliant on the ball. Has a really good turning radius, really good passing range. Just an elegant player, Cristante. I wonder if he will play for them. And you have Raspadori, good goal scorer for them. Chiesa, he's kind of fallen off a bit, Chiesa, from injuries, just falling out of form. So I wonder how much of an impact he'll have in this tournament. Scamacca's been good. He's had a good year with Atalanta, and he's been okay for the Italian national team. So he's definitely someone to look out for there. I feel like, though, this whole team does rest on Nicola Barella, again, having a brilliant tournament. If they are to go deep into it, it's going to depend on that defense, which is very good and very solid, that defense. But then their midfielders of Frattesi, Barella, Pellegrini, so many good players in that midfield. If they can carry them, if they can control games, you could see Italy grinding out a lot of results. I think this is going to be the theme for Italy. I'm not sure if they're going to blow away pretty much anybody, even if they were the better team for 90 minutes. I just don't think they're going to blow out anybody. I think they're going to end up being more of a team that's going to grind out results. Albania, move on to them. I've heard they're going to be one of the worst teams in the tournament. I'd probably agree, because I don't have anybody in their team that's highlighted other than Hisaj, who we know from Lazio, Aslani, Broja. It's not too many players really that we can highlight in this team. It looks like they have some goal scorers in Daku and this guy Hoxha, who's at Dinamo Zagreb, but I don't rate this Albanian team very highly. The only thing I would add before I move on to a different side is the fact that they had such a brilliant qualifying campaign. You wonder if there's something there in this team. Is there some togetherness, brilliant coaching? They know how to work hard for each other. They make life difficult for the opposition to grind out results. If they are going to be that type of team, you always have to take them with a pinch of salt, or at least take them not too seriously, but don't disrespect them, because those teams in the past, Hungary, I think, were kind of that team. Maybe in the last year, in the last Euros, they might have been that team, actually. So Albania, all of that is, they had a good qualifying campaign. There must be something in them. There must be something good about them that got them up until this point. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Tato, thank you. Really appreciate it. I'm just trying to get the channel back and running as best I can. I'm going to do it in whatever way I possibly can. It's not going to be always the highest of quality, maybe not always the most prepared or anything like that, but hopefully you guys can follow me along. Hopefully you guys can keep supporting me over on this journey. Slovenia, Jan Oblak. That's the player that we definitely highlight as one of their main go-tos, and the one that would, if they are going to go far into this tournament, would be the man that needs to have a good tournament. He's actually only 29 or something, Jan Oblak. I feel like he's been around for decades, like multiple decades. And the fact that he's only like 29 or 30 is just ridiculous. Josip Ilicic, one of my favorite players of all time. Will he play? Will he have a big impact in this tournament? I wonder. He's just a guy that's just a wonderful, wonderful footballer to watch. And I just don't know if he's going to be playing very much at all for this Slovenian side. He's had tough troubles with mental illness, with kind of physical issues ever since the pandemic happened. He's just kind of fallen off as a player and basically gone into a version of like kind of mini retirement. I wonder how much of an impact he'll have in this tournament. Benjamin Šeško, easily their best player, easily the future of this team. And if they are to go far at all in this tournament, it definitely will depend on Šeško. And other than that, I can't really add much about the Slovenian team other than a little disappointed, I must say. Not too many itches for the Slovenians. Yes, they have some, but not as many as I would have liked. As compared to the Croatians, also, I would say maybe not as many itches as I would have liked when looking through the Croatian team. You figure they would have, considered if I was going to be doing a Euros preview that they would have wanted to include a few more itches in the Euro squad. Let's keep it moving though. Denmark. I wonder about their goalkeeping situation as well. Kasper Schmeichel, I think he's kind of past it at Anderlecht, and then you have this guy Frederick Rano at Union Berlin, who I've seen some of, and I think he had plenty of game time at Union Berlin, but I don't think he's that great of a keeper. So I wonder if the goalkeeping situation at Denmark is not as good as what it used to be. Simon Kjær, very old at this point. You have Joachim Andersen, who's probably the best defender now. I think the last time we were at the Euros, it was more Simon Kjær, Vestergaard. Those kind of guys were seen as well as probably Christensen. Those guys were seen as the leaders, as the main players for that defense. Whereas now, I'd say that Joachim Andersen out of Crystal Palace is probably their best defender in that team. And I'd say you'd want to line him up with someone like Christensen, maybe. Joachim Mela didn't have a great season at Wolfsburg. Rasmus Christensen, not so much at Roma either. And this defense is very physical, not great on the ball, though. That's my worries. None of those defenders, really, other than Joachim Andersen and maybe Andreas Christensen, are that great on the ball. So you wonder if there will be some worries there. Victor Nelson, decent player, but I think he ended up getting beat out by Davinson Sanchez. So you wonder how much of a good season he's really had there. Alexander Baugh, at one point, a talented, highly rated right back, but not sure if he's really meeting his potential since going to Benfica. Christian Eriksen, we know can be their creator, but at this point he's so old, and you need someone else to step up in that midfield for them, which probably moves me on to then Matthias Jensen. Matthias Jensen, I think, has had a good last couple of seasons at Brentford, and I think he needs to step up for this Denmark team if they are to go far and they are to go deep into the tournament. He has really good work rate. Matthias Jensen knows how to win the ball back, good passing range. I like that guy. I just think he has some good attributes about him. If they are to go deep into the tournament, though, I think it is going to need to depend on Højbjerg to have a masterclass of a year, because he's their work rate in midfield. He's part of the creativity. If it's not Eriksson that's creating, it's usually Højbjerg. And when you watch their games, Denmark, or if you even pay attention to their games, he's often been their goal scorer in situations. So Højbjerg, if they are going to go deep into it, it's going to depend on Højbjerg going to do basically everything: defend, create, as well as score. Christian Norgard, hardworking player. Morten Hjulmand, very highly rated midfielder from Sporting Lisbon. I wonder how much playing time he'll actually get, though. Andreas Skov Olsen, someone that a lot of people think is a very talented winger. Rasmus Højlund, Jakob Brun Larsen. They have a good attack. They have some decent options there. I'm not as worried about their front line as I used to be, because I think Skov Olsen, Højlund, Jakob Brun Larsen, even Jonas Vint, some of these guys can contribute probably going forward. So I'm not too worried about their forwards. I think it is going to depend, though, on the creativity of guys like Højbjerg, guys like Jensen, and guys like Eriksson if they are to go deep into the tournament. Next, we go into the Serbs, the Serbians, my favorite, if not second or third favorite team in this Euros tournament, the Itches. They brought on plenty of Itches with them, as makes me happy. I'm worried about their goalkeeping situation. Petrovic, probably their best choice. I wonder if that's what the coach thinks. Stojkovic, wonder if he will go for Petrovic. You also have Pavlovic and Milenkovic as good defenders in that team. But other than that, I'm a little worried about that defense. And that was the case last time they were in the I think it was in the World Cup. That was the same worries we had, is they didn't have that many great defenders to pick from, very tall players to pick from, but none of them actually played at super high level and come up against great players on a regular basis, other than probably Milenkovic. So, and Milenkovic, I like him, but I don't rate him that highly. So this defense, I have worries and question marks for Serbia. Gudeli, been there for a long time. Dusan Tadic, absolute goat of this team. Filip Kostic as well. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, very sad to have seen him go to the Saudi Pro League. I wish he didn't, because I wonder what level he is at now since he's been playing there. It's just, I think your level and your ability drops off dramatically when going to a league like that. And I wonder how much of an impact he'll have. In other tournaments in the past, though, he'd been missing when he was labeled as the big up-and-coming star, when he was labeled as the go-to guy. If they were to go deep into the tournaments, Milinkovic-Savic often didn't show up, actually, and that was a big disappointment. But it is definitely going to depend on those three for sure in the creativity department to step up for them. Sasha Lukic had an okay season at Fulham. Zivkovic, I've seen lots of times at PAOK. Ivan Ilic at one point, talented midfielder in the Serie A. Then you have Lazar Samardzic, very talented midfielder for Udinese. I think he's already lined himself up a move to either Inter or Juventus or somebody. He moved him. He got himself a move somewhere this summer. And then if they are to go deep, if they have a chance at all, this Serbian team, I think it's just going to depend on Alexander Mitrovic, Dusan Vlahovic, the two big guys up top. Probably my favorite team for this reason as well. Not only for the itch factor, but also just having two absolute large men up top makes me very happy. Always makes me happy to see two big, tall number nines up top dueling it out, battling it out with the defenders. And I just think it's a team that you hope to see. They just get it launched, knock it down, and bring the rest of the team up with them. And kind of Sean Dyche, maybe a bit of David Moyes tactics for the Serbians. I wouldn't go against it when you have two guys like that up top. I just love it. Mitrovic, one of my favorite players, really, as a striker, one of my favorite players in a long, long time. And I hope he does well. And sadly, I'd say similar of him as I did with Sergei Milinkovic-Savic with Al Hilal. I wonder if his level is dropped, if he's just not the same player that he once was because of playing in the Saudi Pro League. Moving on to England, their chances and looking at some of their team, I think we've heard plenty about them. We hear it all the time on Talk Sports. I don't know how much longer I need to go into it. Left back, huge issue there. Just the whole defense, I have issues other than Kyle Walker. Ezri Konsa is a good player. Joe Gomez is good. Mark Guehi is good. Lewis Dunk is good, but they don't have great defenders there. John Stones, I guess, it's just that he's so injury prone. We don't really get to see it often enough. I worry about that defense. I think it will be got at, and I think it will be exposed. Against better teams, it definitely will be exposed. Trent Alexander-Arnold should be able to step into midfield and do just fine. I think that's a better position for him anyways, especially in international tournaments. I think it's much better to have him in midfield than it is to have him playing right back. Declan Rice, we know, Adam Wharton. I love that midfield for England. It's such a crazy good midfield. You have so many different options there. Jude Bellingham, I think, is the reason if they are to win this tournament, if they are to go deep into it, I think it's Jude Bellingham because nobody really has a player like him, I think, in any of the other sides. He's a bit like what, I guess, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic was kind of supposed to be. He's a box-to-box, powerful, goal-scoring number 10 who can create, win the ball back, get up and down, just do everything. He's a complete midfielder, Jude Bellingham. And so few teams have anybody like that. And that's probably going to be England's superpower. That with Harry Kane, just those two guys together is unfair, really. And they should then win a tournament. If they have two guys like that in the same team, they should. I just worry about that defense. I think that defense will eventually let down England. But if they are going to go deep, if they are going to win it all, I think it's going to depend on Jude Bellingham having a wonderful tournament. And then you have excellent creators in Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden. It's a ridiculous team. It's a ridiculous team, except for the defense. The defense is probably going to cost them, in my opinion. Moving on to Poland. Yeah, this is a team I think we could probably quickly move through as well. Szczesny, I think he is pretty much past it at this point. He's still their best goalkeeper, but he is getting quite old. You have Jan Bednarek. It's good to know that he plays for Southampton. I always forget where he's playing. Jakub Kivior, good player for Arsenal, good defender. They just don't have a great team, really. The fact that Bednarek and Jakub Kivior, really more just Bednarek, that he's probably their second best defender in the team is quite worrying. Berezhinski, very old player, experienced player, but very old player for them. This is a team that I have some worries about. Petr Zielinski, unbelievable midfielder, so good on the ball, so creative, such a good ball carrier too. He's going to be their key if they are going to at all do anything. I have no confidence in this Poland team, but if they are going to do anything in this tournament, it's going to depend on Zielinski. He's their creativity. He's going to be the legs in midfield to try to get them up and down the pitch. He's going to be their everything. And I feel like Lewandowski as well has fallen off a little bit in recent times with Barcelona. I don't think he's the same goal scoring striker he once was. I think a lot of this will depend on Zielinski to have a brilliant tournament. Sebastian Szymanski, talented midfielder for Fenerbahce, had a good season for them, highly rated, and is also someone to look out for in this team. But other than that, I don't have many other players I can really point out. Frankowski was at one point highly rated at Lens. You have Zalewski at Roma. I do really like, actually, Nikola Zalewski. But yeah, I don't really don't rate this team really too much. It's not great. And they're a team that never play in any sort of attractive way whatsoever. They just go for nil-nils and they put every man behind the ball. They're not an attractive team to watch at all, Poland. They're very anti-football. Going to Netherlands now, I worry about their goalkeeping situation. I don't know much about any of the goalkeepers other than Flecken and Verbruggen, but I don't really think either of them are than that great. Maybe Verbruggen's been okay, but I don't know how good he really is. And I wonder about their goalkeeping situation. You have Van Dijk, Mickey van de Ven, De Ligt, Nathan Ake, unbelievable defense. Netherlands actually secretly have one of the best defenses in the Euros. Denzel Dumfries, Lautaro Getroida, Jeremy Frimpong, Ian Matson. I like that defense, actually. You have good creative wingbacks, good center backs, good experience in that team with De Vrij and Blint, as well as Van Dijk, and then a bit of youth and inexperience with Van de Ven, which can be good. I really like that defense. It's actually secretly one of the best defense in the tournament. The midfield is very strong too, with Reinders, who I think is one of the best midfielders from the Serie A this last season. He really was a real talent. Came from AZ Alkmaar originally and just looks to be a real midfielder. Xavi Simons is, I think, the best chance they have of going deep into this tournament. He's their creative presence. I feel like the attack has fallen off a bit recently. You look at guys like Cody Gakpo hasn't lived up to the hype yet at Liverpool. Danya Malen has not lived up to the hype at all at Borussia Dortmund. Memphis Depay, not the same player he once was. Genie Wijnaldum, getting old, just came back from the Saudi Pro League. Wout Weghorst, bit of a donkey. Brian Brobby hasn't reached his potential. Steven Bergwijn hasn't reached his potential. It's all in Xavi Simons for me. If they are to go deep into the tournament, he's going to have to be their creator. He's going to have to score some goals for them. Yeah, I think it's going to depend on that guy, and it's going to all rest on his shoulders. Him and Reinders, I think, are their best players in midfield, and will likely be their best players in the tournament if they were to go far. And what they have though is a good defense. I personally, like I said in the beginning of the show, I would rather have a good defense than a good attack if I were to go into a tournament like this. But they don't have much up front. I do worry about their goal scoring chances up front. I just think Gakpo is probably their best forward, and I don't think he's had that great of a season. I rate Gakpo. I've always liked him a lot, but he hasn't lived up to the potential yet. So I wonder how they'll fare. Going on to Austria. This is a team that's been rated as a dark horse. I wonder why, though. I wonder why. It has a little bit to do with the fact that I think it's who's the gosh, Ralph Rangnick. Ralph Rangnick, the coach. I think he's been rated as a good coach for them because they've turned things around with the pressing. They're one of the only high pressing teams in this tournament because it's quite rare to come across sides in a tournament like this where defending makes a lot of sense and you want to be safe. Austria, I believe, are kind of the opposite. They're not very safe. They do try to take the game to you, make life difficult for you with a high press. Just don't really know how much I rate a lot of the guys in this team. They've been playing well together. They have a good record going into this tournament. I wonder though if they'll be one of those dark horse teams that everybody labels the dark horse, but then end up kind of going out like Turkey do and teams like that, or Serbia have. Like Serbia has been that team in the past, the dark horse that ends up really falling flat on its face. I wonder if that's going to be Austria because I don't rate any of their goalkeepers, don't really know anything about any of their goalkeepers. Now I go to the defense and I have question marks there. Stefan Leiner is getting very old. Max Verber, not that great of a defender. He came from RB Salzburg, then went to Leeds, sort of failed at Leeds, now back at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Kevin Danzo, good defender at Lens, but I worry about that defense. Like none of these guys, like I know much about or even rate very highly. So Kevin Danzo is probably their best, and I don't know much about the goalkeeper. So the Austria team, again, just to start off with, I don't believe in the hype as much as other people might. I look at the midfield strong. You have Sabitzer, Grilic, Christoph Baumgartner too. He's a good player. Konrad Leimer. I think it's probably depending on Marcel Sabitzer as well as Konrad Leimer if they are to go far into this tournament, if they were to go deep into it, because they're their best players. They work so hard off of the ball. Marcel Sabitzer just has that bit of extra quality in possession and can score goals, good from free kicks. Christian Baumgartner has a good goal scoring tendency. It's more their midfield where their strength lies, I think, Austria. Nicholas Seiwald, also a good midfielder. But I worry about this team because it's the midfield where they're strong. But then you look up top, Marco Arnautovic, Mikhail Gregorich, not really a ton of goal scorers in this team. I'm just confused. I don't really know where the hype is coming from other than the coaching and other than their recent record going into the tournament. I heard they had a good record. They press really high. They're a difficult team to play against. It's just that when you look at the team on paper, when you look at the 25, 26 man squad, not a lot of quality there. Again, I'll go through not great goalkeepers, not a lot of great defenders there. Midfield is quality. And then up front, not a whole lot to work with for me personally. So I just don't believe in the Austrian hype personally. Just don't believe in it. Good to see so many else people other joining us. We have FC Ameti, Tyler saying Ericsson was amazing in the warm-ups for the Euros, to be fair. If Ericsson and Højbjerg keep their form for a country, they can go far. I think it's big on I think it's very dependent on Højbjerg as well as Ericsson to go deep into the tournament, that's for sure. We also have Tyler saying Zyvalt is a good young player. Heard a lot about Zyvalt from RB Salzburg, and then ended up going to. Did he stay? Where did he end up going, Zyvalt? Oh, no, he went to RB Leipzig, and he was okay at RB Leipzig from what I can tell. But he is a very talented player indeed. And we'll get to the Georgian team in just a second, all of you lovely Georgian fans. France, go on to them now. Goalkeeper situation, I'm not worried about it, but it's not that great. Mike Magnan, I think, is still their best goalkeeper. If I'm mistaken, unless I'm wrong, I don't think he had the best last season. I might be wrong, but maybe he didn't have the best last season. Alphonse Areola, Samba, both okay keepers as well to have as backup. Ibrahima Konate, Jules Koundé, both great defenders. Dio Upamecano, so good in possession, but can be a bit erratic defensively. Benjamin Pavard, Teo Hernandez, what a brilliant defense they have. They have good, I think, players in possession in that defense. All of them are very good on the ball when you think about it. Jules Koundé, probably one of the best passing center backs in the world, I think, still to this day. I could say the same of Benjamin Pavard. Teo Hernandez is still probably one of the best left backs in the world. Very good defense there. N'Golo Kante, I wonder how much he'll actually play. Eduardo Camavinga is a good Swiss Army knife of a player in the fact that he can play almost anywhere and is just quality in possession, quality in general. That midfield is pretty crazy. They have good destroyers, good hard workers, and Tchouameni and Fofana. Then they have very good creative players in Zaire Emery. I like this team, France. I really do. And then have lots of different options up front. They have Olivier Giroud, target man, always been good for them, been reliable. And then you have Antoine Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe, who've carried them through these tournaments and have been so good for this French team in years past. And that's what I think, if they are to win a tournament, is going to be dependent on if Griezmann and Mbappe can find that form, find that brilliance again. This is going to be a hard team to beat, because what they had that was, I think, different, or what they had that made them special, was Griezmann would drop deep into midfield, work really hard to win the ball back, but was that creative spark in midfield for the French team. And then they had the most dangerous forward in world football, and Kylian Mbappe up front just made them a very difficult team, just having such good quality players that could drop into midfield like Griezmann and then still have someone up front like Mbappe who's just ridiculous. And then Marcus Thuram has had a very good season at Inter Milan. So this team up front is dangerous. Coman, Barcola, Muani, Dembele, Mbappe, Griezmann, unbelievable attack. And then Giroud. I think their attack might be their strongest, but it's just a complete team. Like, I don't really see many weaknesses in this French team. Whereas if I were to look at the England team, it's very obvious. The defense is such a huge gaping hole. There's so many obvious weak points in the defense. I couldn't really say there are that many weak points in this French team. Yes, Arnautovic is still in Italy, still playing for Inter Milan at the moment, Tyler. Let's go on to Belgium. Cohen Casteels is going to be their goalkeeper instead of Courtois. Definitely some worry there. Casteels is okay, but I don't rate him that highly. I think he'll be fine for them. He's an okay international goalkeeper, but Courtois, there's a huge difference between him and Courtois. Timothy Castagna actually had a good season, I think, at Fulham. Maxim de Kuiper is someone I've heard plenty about. Supposed to be a good player. About Face, okay player too. The defense, I'm not as worried about it as maybe other people are, because you have Jan Vertonghen, who's getting very old, Thomas Meunier getting very old. But I think having guys like Timothy Castagna, who's off the back of a good season. You have guys like Wout Faes, who are younger as well. And you have this guy, Maxime de Kuiper. If they were to play at least two of those three players I just mentioned, I think the defense won't be nearly as bad as maybe it was in other times. And then I look at Axel Witsel as another example, though, of a very aging team. This team is aging. You can't look past it. It is a very old team. Axel Witsel, I'm not sure if he even should have been called up personally. Yannick Carrasco, I wonder as well if he should have been called up. The fact Al Shabaab, I'm not even sure if that's Qatar. He might have gone to Qatar. I think Carrasco, again, like such a brilliant player, but you wonder if his level has dropped off significantly since going there. Kevin De Bruyne, Mangala, Amadou Onana. Amadou Onana is a secretly good player for them that I think we all know about, but I wonder if that's one of the keys to them having a good tournament, because De Bruyne, I've highlighted in orange, as the guy, if they are to go deep into it, it will depend on De Bruyne having a brilliant tournament and carrying them through with the goal scoring, with the creativity. But having a hardworking, deep lying player like Onana, that could also be very important for them. Artur Vermeeren, very talented, very highly rated in midfield as well, could help out De Bruyne. Tielemans, we know as well. And then they have good forwards. This is where their strength lies, actually, Belgium. Bakayoko, Charles de Ketelaere off the back of a great season. Jeremy Doku off the back of a good season. Romelu Lukaku, okay season. Luis Openda, very good season. And Trossard, very good season. They have very good attackers. Dodi Lukebakio, former Hertha Berlin player, by the way, too. So where Belgium's strength lies is in the attack. And I wonder if that was the case before. I felt like in years past, it was more in maybe it was more in midfield. It's hard to remember if it was the attack where they always had their strength, but certainly this year, I think that's where their strength lies. Moving on to Slovakia, Martin Dubravka, okay goalkeeper. Yeah, can be got out though, and I feel like that's part of it could be a slight weakness for the Slovakia team, but they're not really the strongest of teams anyway. Peter Pekarik, Hertha Berlin player, can't even believe he's still playing for this team. Can't even believe he's still playing for Hertha Berlin, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Milan Skriniar, easily their best player, easily their best defender. Then you have David Hanchko, who's also a good defender, someone that Spurs I thought could have taken a look at one point as a backup, right-sided center back behind Romero. They have good defenders there in those two, but at the fullback positions, they are very weak. You then look in midfield, also very weak. Just nobody really of any real quality. Their best players, though, are probably actually in midfield, so I should take that back. Stanislav Lobotka, very good player for Napoli. And then Andre Duda, former also Hertha Berlin player, who I actually liked a lot at Hertha Berlin. And then Juraš Kučka, who is always a great name to say, crunching hard tackler, longtime veteran of this Slovakian team. But yeah, they're not going to go far. I think they're probably one of the worst teams in this tournament. And Stanislav Lobotka, if they are to go far, which they won't, but if they are, it's probably going to depend on him. I think he's easily their best player next to Milan Skriniar in the team. Very good. And then Leo Zauer looks, from what I could tell, to be a talented player up at Feyenoord, but only talented. He hasn't really exactly proven himself yet. Romania, too, is a team that I don't have much confidence in. It's mostly because I don't know anybody in this Romanian team. They don't have anybody playing at a significantly high level. I can't even tell you who's going to be their goalkeeper from that list. Radu Dragusin is the only guy I can really say anything about in this whole team. So I'm not very confident in this Romanian team. The only thing I can say is they had a good qualifying campaign. They had a good qualifying run. They've had decent results of keeping games close and keeping games tight. So Radu Dragusin for me might be the key if they are to get out of their group and if they are to go far at all, which I don't think they will. But if they are to go far, I think it'll probably depend on Radu Dragusin just having an incredible defensive tournament. Dennis Mann, someone I've heard of in the past, someone to consider, I guess, too, if they are to score goals. But yeah, not very confident in this team. A real dark horse to consider is Ukraine. They are very much a real dark horse to consider. I like their goalkeeping options. You have Andre Lunin, you have Trubin, both very good goalkeepers. I think take your pick there. Mykola Matvienko, talented player, always been reliable for the Ukraine. Mikolenko's off a good season at Everton, solid defensively. Then you have Zabarny, who's off the back of an okay season at Bournemouth. Their up-and-coming defender. He's their talented center back that's just going to grow with experience and probably is going to be their best defender, if it isn't already maybe their best defender, Zabarny. Very good in possession, probably their best in possession. Then you have Konoplia, someone who I mentioned recently is a guy that I would recommend to Spurs as a backup right back option to Pedro Porro, someone who would be very cheap, also kind of out of nowhere, under the radar type of signing. I think he's very good. He had a good season for Shakhtar and showed up in the big games for them in the Champions League. Then you have Bondar too, who I think played well for Shakhtar in the Champions League and in some of their bigger games. And the reason they even got knocked out, Shakhtar, I think, is because Bondar got injured in their Europa League games against Marseille, and they needed him in those games because if they had him, I think they actually would have gotten past Marseille. But Bondar is another good player in that team. I wonder if he would even start for them because he had a good season for Shakhtar, at least in the bigger games when I watched them. Alexander Zinchenko, much better in midfield than he is a fullback. Malinovsky, a veteran of this team. We all know he has a rocket of a shot as well. And then Viktor Zahankov had a very good season at Girona. Very good season there. And him and Dubvik combined super well. That's what I think is their key to getting deep into this tournament. If Zahankov as well as Dubvik can have that combination that they had at Girona, then I think they should be just fine in getting deep into this tournament because they have other options. And Mudrik, Sudakov, very talented player there. I like this team. There's some balance to it. They have okay midfielders. Maybe they could have a bit more in midfield with guys like Stepanenko, who's a veteran of this side, but he is getting a little old. And um, you'd say that Zinchenko, they need another player like Zinchenko probably in the team, or they need another like hardworking midfielder there. But I would say this team is interesting. This team is interesting. This Shakhtar, or not Shakhtar, this Ukrainian side, and I like their chances. They have Dobvik, good forward up front. They have good creative wingers in Zahankov as well as Mudrik. They have good creative midfielders in Zinchenko as well as Sudakov, Malinovsky, and I like some of their defenders: Zabarny, Mikolenko, Matvienko, and then their goalkeeping situation I think is great. So a secretly balanced team. They're my pick for the dark horses, I think, in this tournament. What happened to Haji? I'm not sure what happened to Haji. I don't know if he ever really lived up to the hype, and certainly never lived up to the reputation of his dad. Turkey, let's go on to them. Another team I'm sort of worried about won't really end up being the dark horse that plenty of people often label them. I'm worried about the goalkeeper situation. Which one will they go for? I'm not sure. I've heard of Shakir Bainder. We know that was highly rated, went to Man United, didn't play at all for Man United, and even let in like 2 goals to like, what was it, Newport County or something like that. Poor guy. So I worry about their goalkeeper situation. Their defenders, Zeki Celik, we know at Roma, he had an okay season for them, but the fact that he is probably one of their better defenders is a slight worry. Khan Ihan, veteran of the team, but not a great defender by any means. Yeah, I worry about this team. I just don't see many great defenders in this list here. I don't even see Soyuncu, which is also crazy to me. The fact that Soyuncu's not even here is a big worry. So the Turkish, yeah, I'd say they probably can be got at defensively. Just all of them seem to play in either, it looks like, very little. I'm not sure if the Kaplan guy has played very much. I think he's a talented up and coming Turkish player, but I'm not sure if he's really played at senior pro level. It's just all of their defenders, bar Zeki Celik, really don't play at a super high competitive level. Hakan Çalhanoğlu is easily their best chance of getting deep into the tournament. He's had a good few seasons for Inter Milan, has taken up different positions as a more of a deeper playmaker, a deeper midfielder. If he can replicate that form with Inter Milan, or if he could replicate that form with the Turkish national team, I think they have a chance of doing okay. Their midfield is great. They have good creative players, and Kokcu, Güler, Salih Özcan is a good kind of hardworking defensive midfielder for Dortmund. Could be as well for Turkey. Atatürkoglu had a good season for Galatasaray. Yazici I like at Lille, a left-footed player. Kaveci is also good for Fenerbahce. I like Kaveci actually. He's been all right for them in the past. Kenan Yildiz, talented up-and-coming player for Juventus, very young. Yilmaz is a talented player coming out of Galatasaray at the moment. Not the other he's not the. I think he might be related to the younger or the older Yilmaz that we know from Lille in that title-winning season. This Turkish team is strange. I think their strength lies in midfield, sort of up top, not really. their defense is weirdly their weakest point. And I wouldn't have said that in years past about the Turkish. So I have worries for them. The fact that their defense is probably the worst. I think they could get embarrassed actually in this tournament. I just don't see them being that unified. I don't think they had a ton of great form going into the tournament. I worry about their chances. Turkey. They're often labeled the dark horses, but I don't think they'll go as far as they would like. Georgia finally got onto the Georgians. If any of the lovely Georgian fans are still listening, you guys, I wonder how you'll do. Because feeling nobody knows much about you guys. We have Mamardashvili, very talented goalkeeper, has a great story at Valencia. In that, you guys might know this better, a lot of the Georgian fans, but at one point he was like the fourth choice goalkeeper at Valencia. Then there were some injuries or something or another, and then he came back and or came into the team, was given a chance as like the fourth choice goalkeeper, and has never looked back. Now he's considered one of the best young goalkeepers in world football after just being given one chance, basically. So what a story, I think, with Mamardashvili. Very tall, super useful, you'd think, when defending deep. I'd expect that you guys will be. You'll be looking to probably defend quite deep, look to hit teams on the counterattack, and I'd imagine he'd be quite good for that because he's so tall, claims crosses, and makes some real crack saves on a regular basis, Mamardashvili. So I like him. I like him a lot in this tournament. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Yeah, looks like you guys can still hear me. I like him a lot, Mamardashvili. And then you have this guy, I can't really say his name, but Georgi Gacholeshvili. I think I'd heard of him. Is he a left back? If you guys can tell me, is he a left back? I think he is a left back for Shakhtar Donetsk. I liked him. I liked him in some of the games that I watched for Shakhtar. He's a player that, if I remember correctly, caught my eye a little bit. You have a guy over at Sturm Graz. I wonder if he's talented at all. Keteshvili. I didn't look him up yet. I meant to look him up. You have a guy over at Bordeaux, Davitashvili. And then I've heard of these guys. I've heard of Georgi over at Watford. He's supposed to be quite talented. And then also I've heard of Georgios Mikatadze. I can't say his name, but at Metz. I believe those guys are some of your other very talented up-and-coming players for the Georgian national team. Are these guys, the guy at Watford and then the guy over at Metz as well. I'm pretty sure some of your other talented players. He's a right back, you're saying, Tato. Very interesting. I liked him. I thought he looked good. For the Shakhtar team in the past, but there's another right back at Shakhtar who I also rate quite highly. But we all know it's Kvaratskhelia. He's the one. Kavicha. He's the one that is going to try to carry this team through the tournament. I rate their chances of getting out of the group, or at least giving it a good go. I think it's a bit of a free hit for them. It's amazing they've made it to this tournament. If I'm not mistaken, might be your guys' first time qualifying for the tournament, or first time in a long time qualifying for the tournament. I think it's spectacular. It's really cool to see Georgia here at this tournament. I think they'll be great team to have. I don't really know if will they get through. I think they could get third. Could they get higher than that? I'm not sure, but they could get third. I think they'll upset somebody. They'll be better than somebody in that group. They will. And I don't think anybody expects them to be probably higher than third. So that's probably, I think, just fine. I expect them to get third. This Georgian team. They defend well. They defend deep. And then they have good players, it looks like, on the counterattack in Kvara. And then if they can get as well guys like Georgios there, and then also that guy from Watford involved. I'm pretty sure that Watford guy is supposed to be a very talented player. Didn't he come from like Ghent, or he came from like the Belgian Pro League? I swear he must have come from like the Belgian Pro League. The Georgi guy. I think the Georgi guy from Watford, he must have come from the Belgian Pro League because I remember that name and I know he's supposed to be talented. Portugal with their goalkeeping situation also worries because Rui Patricio, don't rate him too highly. Jose Sa didn't have a great season with Wolves. Diogo Costa, young but inexperienced for the Portuguese national team. They have a weird goalkeeping situation there. And then you look at the defense, it's solid. You have Joao Cancelo, you have Antonio Silva, Ruben Dias. I like their defense. Pepe, Gonçalo Inácio, good wingbacks, good creative fullbacks, solid defenders. Their defense is not, I think, the best. I think there are better defenders and better defenses to pick from, but It's similar to the French team, if I remember correctly, the Portuguese side. It's a very balanced team. You look at the midfield, Joao Palhinha, Bruno Fernandes, and then Ruben Neves, who's, I think, done himself a disservice by going to the Saudi Pro League, but it is an unbelievable midfield that they have to pick from. You have Vitinha, who can sub in there, Joao Neves, Bernardo Silva, one of my favorite players in world football, world-class player. This midfield is just ridiculous, the combinations that they can make. And then the forward line, I think, is also absurd. You have so many good players to pick from: Pedro Neto, Diogo Jota, Cristiano Ronaldo, Francesco Conceição. Conceição. You have Rafael Leao, Joao Felix, Gonçalo Ramos. What an attack to pick from! Might be one of the best forward lines in the tournament to be picking from. For me, it's not Ronaldo, it's not Leao. That's the key to this tournament. For some reason, I thought it was Joao Felix. The only reason is because he had such a good time last time for Portugal. He really flourished in that team that I feel like if they are to go deep into the tournament, if they are to have a good run, I think it depends on someone like that to open things up for the rest of the team. Because what Joao Felix did so well was he was dropping into spaces, he was picking up the ball off of midfielders, and then he was making things happen. He was taking it past players. He's playing some beautiful balls in behind to players like Ronaldo, Leao, and just made life easier for them. He was the creative outlet for that Portuguese team. They're full of creative players, but he ended up being the real maverick in that team. And if he does that again, I could see them going very deep into this tournament because he was causing teams problems when he was playing well in that Portugal side. So if he does that again, I think that's their key to going deep, because then he's able to take off some of the attention from guys like Ronaldo, from guys like Leao. And then if you get them into one-on-one situations because everyone's so focused on Joao Felix, that's just going to work out for them. I think it's going to be a good recipe to cause teams problems, is to distract them with a player like Felix, then get the ball into players like Ronaldo, into Leao afterwards, and they could cause problems. Czechia, I worry about them. I'm not too convinced by their defense. Can't really name too many defenders in there. Vladimir Sufal is one of them, but other than that, it's I think it's this guy Vitek is one of their players that I might sort of know a bit about. He's talented. That's all I've heard about. But yeah, I don't really know too much about the defense other than what I can tell is the majority of their defenders all play in the Czech league. So they might be familiar with each other, but it's not very talented or really experienced by the looks of things. Thomas Suchek, Antonin Barak are probably some of their better midfielders. Czerny is okay. Pravad is okay. Dudera is okay. They're hardworking players in the Czech league. They're not the highest of quality. Jurasek is okay. Pavel Sulk, I was highlighted his name for some reason. He must have had a brilliant season or something. Maybe that was the reason I highlighted him. And then Patrick Schick and Adam Lotzek, we all know that they're the main talisman in this team. And if they are to go deep into the tournament, Czechia, those are the two that I think will have to carry them. Two very good forwards, very talented in their own right. And I'd recommend that they play some version of a two up top, or a version where they can get both of them into the game. And that's their best chance of going deep. Similar to Serbia, just use the best of those two forwards and see if you can go far. But now I'm done talking. Sorry for the rambling. Sorry for the fact that it's even a bit disorganized. But there's my Euro 2024 groups preview. It's the best I could do. I just decided to go through all the players, all the squads, and get a sense of which teams I like, to get a sense of what areas I think they're weak, what areas they think they're strong. I'm going to make another video at some point tomorrow where I'm going to actually give my real predictions for the groups, for the group stages, players of the tournament, dark horses, that type of thing. So look out for that tomorrow, everybody. Really do appreciate you guys at all tuning in, at all even coming into the chat. And just want to say again, I'll explain it in another video another time, but I do apologize for dropping off on this channel, ignoring it, falling back, and missing out on growing it with you guys. And I want to do that now. I want to make up for it. I apologize for the lost time. Just got very busy with the Irish Hotspur, and I'm focused again, and I'm motivated again to make content again on this channel. Wasn't the most organized, wasn't the best version of it, I think, today. Just had to get started, though, somehow. So hopefully you guys can follow along with me. Give me another chance. If you can't for me, smash the like button. Subscribe if you forgot to. If maybe you unsubscribe, do it again. And I hope to see you guys plenty more times. throughout the summer and throughout the next year on this channel. And yeah, just want to say I apologize, and hope we can make up for it throughout the year. Thanks for following me along. Thanks for tuning into this one. And I look forward to making my further predictions tomorrow, everybody. And good to see all of you back on here. And I'll see you, everybody.